famous rabbis. Yesteryear, the 14th of Tammuz, Yudal Tammuz, marks the Hilula of Rabbi Asher Shalem, Zecher Tzadik Libracha. I believe he was born in English in 1684, and he passed away in the year 1732. A more earlier parts of the 18th century passed away. He actually came from great rabbinic auspices. I believe his father's name was Emmanuel Shalem. Actually, I'm not too sure if he was a rabbi himself. And he was born in 1684 in Saloniki. That was, at that point in time, part of the Ottoman Empire. He would go on to study Torah, Yirat Shemaim, through the great rabbis of Saloniki in Greece of his respective time. It's actually, we can point out many things with regards to his era being in Greece. I think it happened to be, especially in the house of his father, Rabbi Emmanuel, Hagarabi, Emmanuel Shalem. It was a house where many of the sages would come, and needs of the public would be discussed for the people, the needy of the city. It will be robust, discuss how to go ahead within regards to it. So his house of his father was a very prominent place. I think he happened to be Emmanuel Shalem, his father, a very wealthy man over there. And it was a committee where the rabbis would gather together. They would come with different ideas, what was necessary for the congregation, for the poor people over there, and for Am Yisrael as a whole. And some people would actually hold that his brother might have been Rabbi Shmuel Shalem. I don't know if that's universally mentioned or not. He happened to be the author of the Shar HaMelech book, which was a Torah class work on Arba'at Torim in of itself. Now, when he was young, he would actually start off his education through Rabbi Abraham Gatinian, I believe. He was author, if I'm not mistaken, the book called the Soror HaKesef, and which we must point out now. As life progressed, I think after learning with Abraham Gattineo and learning this book properly, he would go on to get married and gave birth to a great, what would become a rabbi, famous rabbi, Rabbi Shem Tov, the son of Rabbi Yitzchak Tzvi from Bosnia. And very, very interesting enough. Now, we've mentioned about him on various occasions before. So he would get married, and I think so his name was Rav Shem Tov ben Chacham Yitzchak Tzvi Bonza, if I'm not mistaken, and another close relative of his, Rabbi Miuchas Becha Shmuel Miushleim. So that would be connected very much to his wife, if I'm not mistaken. Now, in the year 1731, he would various different Shadash, Shoched Rabbanans, rabbinic emissaries would come actually to meet him, including Rabbi Nissim Yaakov Al-Ghazi, who was a great rabbi. He came over as a Shluach, as a rabbinic emissary to the city of Saloniki, so he'd come to greet him and host him at that point in time. And he's mentioned very much inside the books, especially of Rabbi Yosef Aaron ben Chasson and Rabbi Moshe Amar Yalayan, if I'm not mistaken. And much can be said about him. I'd recommend everyone to look actually into those books. And his house was, as I said before, a committee for the wise people of Saloniki to come. I think even the young people of the city, the young Chachamim, would come, and they would say, see the greatness of the rabbi. They would say how, he was obviously pushed with this time period in himself, grappling with so many cases, but still at the same time, he would have his house open for so many people to come and to get inspired and to get mitchazek without a doubt. We have to stress that out. Now, it's reported over that in his house, he would hold a very important and large library, which contained to it many books and unique manuscripts to which I think he collected with a huge amount of effort. As I said before, he passed away, I believe, in the year 1732. We're talking about here nearly 300 years ago. I think a plague struck the city of Saloniki at the time of his passing. It was in the 14th of Tammuz. After his death, I think his responsa to the commentaries and sermons were collected by his son-in-law, Rabbi Raphael Chaim Abraham ben Hacham Shmuel Kobo, and I think it was later published in 1747 in Saloniki in the book called the Mata Asher. This is, I've got to point out also. Now, it's very interesting. A few highlights from his book. The Haimi website of here, which I'm quoting from, actually gives a lot of highlights from the book. Melamed Sharvot Hu Letaot Israel. Vafilu Tzadik Echad Benehem. There's a teaching that comes from Mata Asher, featured very much in page 123. It's another teaching of his goes. Melamed she'im lo kav'u aminhag ma'amad anshe yacholim levatlo. So this very much is featured in Mata Asher, page number 1. So how important it is to let's just say, to find companionship at young, isn't it? It's talking all about minhag over there. Okay, another teaching of this. Melamed, kivan shedanim tzedek, inu din ba'atzmo. For tzedakah imabriut. This is another teaching that comes from, I believe, page 156, Kufnun Zayin, Vayin, if I'm not mistaken. Another teaching, Melamed, shelo katab ela lelamed et atzmo, ve'inu ela k'ma'amtik. It's another teaching of his, featured very much in the first page of the book of the great Rabbi. Yes, okay, Rabbi Asher on the first page. That was printed in Saloniki back in the year 1747. So now another teaching. And one last teaching. So this is describing him, let's just say, in himself once again. This time, I think, in the Moshe Asher, in page number 72. That was printed in Saloniki back in the year 1740. Yeah, it must have been earlier than that. But very, very interesting. So friends, we're a community here. We're learning about famous rabbis of yesteryear. We're speaking about a famous Greek rabbi today, and his name was Rabbi Asher Shalem, another one of the famous rabbis of his time that really makes an imprint, makes a huge change within regards to education as a whole, and possibly maybe even location. So wishing you well, take care, and thank you.